Hello, dear Weathersfield parents, American parents, Connecticut parents. This is intercities, this is interstates, this is international, on off all schools. And it's how they're shared. Our whole bunch, all our countries on and off the campuses together. And not just with what is known relative to truth treatments and to lie treatments as formally and informally conceived, agreed to conceive as reality. So we go to subjects with the treatments we give subjects are shown to us, or they change our words and attach us to fake words with other people, fake locations with other people, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to people, relative also to where fake exceptions are made, where the fakeness is where and how they knew effectively they already they made time treatments at all formal locations where time was used time simultaneously too fast, too slow, to not stay in collusion slash S with a whole bunch of uses of people communicating that they're going to pretend other, but they are aware of how they have roles with people preventing the revelations in the short words and the protraction of them that each person wants. All exceptions, exception nature that appear to be to use and to demonstrate that we are capable of using. And all exceptions, exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of other are in demonstration of the same thing, slash S. Where and how mandated law is not followed is relevant to where and to how fake things are being typed into databases. And acting and pretending motions and passions goes with that. And it is increasingly reliant upon those theater takes on what the value of voting or what the value of democracy is, for example, or what the value of a public is, abridged, or what the value of Marbury versus Madison is, with criminal insidiousness natures of appearance of justice used. There are people that pretend passions and emotions and sensibilities towards others relative to they don't even know them. If you learn how we need to use their names after force when we don't want to use names, that's why it delays it. Then because we ignore things like that, we don't know the people. You know what I mean? They're making fake exceptions, and where they're not making exceptions, this is relative to all these different identity of the ground locations, identity of value progressions that are kept needing to hide life progressions, right where nature and what American history is really communicated as through our founders that had to counter extort the other founders because it was a breaching method measuring and maintaining who's really behind that to get the Constitution unabridged, to get Marbury versus Madison, to means quote real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice unquote. It doesn't mean appearances of justice per those things that they're thing all exception nature are a demonstration of the same thing. In other words, we have the answers what caused Jim Crow laws, but we have other being taught through lawyers who never had the right to stay collusions. See, all identity of the ground locations and the branches of the government, they never had right to the victims because they came through the schools, same thing. Simply distinctly, the best schools to the worst schools as one array, too, and grouped syntactically. Self value or that person is sensed, not having assigned, not having self valued, having been assigned. What really natural difference? what really natural difference is being generated by that is about. Doesn't It's one system perfect that does not come through other systems. It demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. No one could invent what is itself, which is the increasing value of what really was true that came before. See, you can invent new histories. The value of what was really true before. Native Americans forgot that part of the sustained breaching method against every single person, sickly distinctly still. It consciously assigned their identity then in that phase of the breaching method. During it, then with the phenomena of our founders, they still had to hide their roles. All those narratives regarding what really led up to the Declaration of Independence, the way it really unfolded. It was going to the next phase of getting out, of being enslaved, sickly distinctly, every single person. The overt black-white formal treatments of that, which were laws manifest at locations where we are syntactically manifest and for functionally, and where everyone sees everyone around them doing in accordance with tactically unnatural uses of our natural differences. And it is important to discern how assigned for use tactically ulterior from all the ones that assigned everyone roles. The breaching method on the and slavery was entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies sickly distinctly, and rather having used that as evidence, we have other natures of evidence and of the debate of over evidences only having been heard, or they attach that person to change words, fake words, fake ties to the people, fake natures of ties to the people. And the reason this method showed them how to get away with it. It showed them how to need to. Means to the reason the fentanyl, there are multiple reasons the fentanyl is at least reported interstate. See, this breaching method measures and maintains distinctly from our own. Where and how self-value, fact, human nature, counters to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. That self-value roles, needs, and natures as criminal and with criminal only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures to be roles with criminal insidiousness natures of positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. The reason the cities look like they do, besides the damage control, would have been real unsafe. The whole thing's a trap. The suburbs are tactically denatured, let alone the cities. And where and how the exceptions and exception natures apply. There's a distinction between not just the natures of wealth, but the relevance of that. Where and how too. The individual names of our countries have been assigned other than as natural too. We are no longer using words the way that we're supposed to for its system that has us black pupils, whites of eye. Individual volume science, group volume science, locations, areas, sexes, and together. The way it showed the ancients before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced. They were led by difference / hyperdifference, which is what or who best could, could accord with its positive to itself, it's positive everywhere at once. For its system, means come out of nowhere. Evolution's fruits and gifts, means out of nowhere, including where and how we are fact treating nature. Better than negotiation. See what we have to be speaking about and realizing the framework that forced economic value treatments to keep this from being discerned, that hypernative identity that has us being able to discern our identity of relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, and the relativity of value, positive or to positive and negative simultaneously, not just to discern identity, but to discern that identity distinctly, the possession of it, while non-distinctly, and while hyper simultaneously, where how value progressions work distinctly, non-distinctly, hyper simultaneously is a demonstration of itself. The hyper invisible, but it's still discernible per science. That identity of volume, distinct from non-distinct and hyper simultaneous with all parts of English grammar, as distinct identities of invisible but still discernible. And this is where value is nature / nature is value, and how that is 3 volumes. There are more names for the silly disc, the slash. I have not. I have to research that better. I read that on Wikipedia. I believe there were like 5 names for it. But there are 3. There are proofs. This is why. On the website of Yale University, they have a picture of Jesus Christ with a halo illuminated, and with the A on the left side of his head, and with a W on the right side. For example, relative to the real history of English grammar, which requires understanding the breaching method that criminally foreign influence uses of the sciences, abridged from their state, and understanding a method by nature itself before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced. There are proofs that an archetypal criminal enterprise became a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise. And because it realized it was going to get caught. So it forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded modern countries, A through Z. I mean, semi-ancient countries, before colonization, individually grouped and together to counter what had already obfuscated, to counter what had already known, set off, made misuses of the function of the republic for which we stand, this ancient thing, and its identity of functions by and with the value of campuses. Now increasingly, as systems increasingly and tactically ulterior from their hyper-native state and function, if with Native Americans or not. It was for the species volume science. If and when the legion is positive onto itself, for example, it senses this by being hyper positive onto others. This is why there are proofs that what is the Republic's legion / S, there were other forms of it. When summaries of history are made and left out is how the course of black pupils and whites of eyes are bridged. has been left out with subjects treatments. There are all kinds of simultaneously things that were listed things that we could list. You know, they showed the reality is reality and the value of that. For example, I've lost my train of thought for a second, but reality is reality, and the value of that is relevant where and how we only have the slightest portion of reality. But if we use that portion that we know is true always to an extent, we know it, the past came. And there was things about it that we know were true. We need food. We need the right mixture of gases. We love and value the ground's identity of relationship to itself, however, where and how the ground was tactically denatured before our founding parents were even born. The suburbs were designed tactically denatured to specifically to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while simultaneously causing the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, criminal insidiousness natures of them, a certain type of victim slash hyper victim that each was only allowed to be per a breaching method that not only takes to all its education, its nature's nature and the value of that, which has a conjunction slash hyperconjunction to all words and things, box things, the science of sharing identity where they appear not to. The course of Earth's a special difference and how it being apart from our own is here to tell. Regions, well, the trial tribes. So, America, in other words, so this is one of the things they do. If you call up a school, I call up a school. Someone tell the television judges on social media too, please, because they have wire crime acts and methods and mail crime acts and methods, and with the exceptions and exception nature tied to the three branches of government, and how with each country individually grouped together, having self-valued themselves and uses of their names, only heard used by a breaching method to measure and maintain, to sense and discern what's against it, distinctly from it, but and through even though through our own, through other apparent motivations, natures, needs, interests themselves, all identity of the ground, fact keeping nature, measured and maintained, leaving finite details, worse than leaving finite details out, relevant to this. In other words, who could pretend, what logic entertains, in other words, says that New York City has not been tortured since its inception, unfree at last, to put it in hyper additional words, because that's what it's about, how we are hyper additional in nature. Put it in Martin Luther King Jr. words. Martin Luther King, same thing. And well, not because it is hyper additional, what we are about. What can only increase, and its positive relationship to itself. All exception nature is relative to where and to how, or a special difference is a concentrated difference. And concentration is relative to consciousness. The hyper woke. See, the thing is not to just wake, but be hyper woke. Attend. The mind is surging through all things more than the brain to gain the brain. Right then. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a police form. not a lawyer, not a judge. We know since founding they were sickly victims too, and hyper victims too, for the breaching method and all that. Not by accident, it was blamed on. It blames we. It did. I have to. I think my haircut is horrible. Excuse me. This is important. Since before the World Trade Center, the people, other motivations, natures of organized crime are involved, and uses criminally foreign influence uses of agencies like the FBI, CIA involved with these crime methods, where they have people make confessions and that who had been they take pictures of them and whatever to make it look like you know them, people that you don't. Make fake exceptions of when you know other people, and that all they conspire. They have the intelligence community every year, not just 1 year. They've been stacking predicate acts and databases with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Forgiveness is so everyone could stop saying, pretending everyone's blaming other people. In other words, too, because the sequence shifts are involved. They bring up their names and then pretend that we brought it up. All exceptions, exception nature, they use also to keep how nature really used and uses exception nature from being discerned, because it uses it two hyper additional ways. It uses it as the identity that was really came before, and it uses it as the identity that really truly on the other side of the extent we know has yet to come, but is value now. But we know too, if we are honest, this is now through systems tactical terror with our names. Where relevant is how we are individuals grouped in together. Where relevant is in where and how it needs us to use these words, not relative to or through filters. Systems tactical terror from its own vaccines. So the identity of the Native Americans and how this breaching method entertained counters to things like criminal insidiousness and to criminal enterprises. It developed distinct identities of criminal insidiousness because it knew nature would. And it knew countries would become archetypal criminal prizes, having defended themselves as fact-driven nature, having blamed other things, others, ourselves, leaving out what was actually finite true, what was actually grouped truths that they could discern to an extent, and was actually altogether true. Ugh. So we don't want to blame other people with the people who get behind this in the hyper additional to with us, to, from, as, with, and for us. The people of New York City, for example, the whole cartoon value nature system. But there are people in New York City version, the the New York City boroughs in the cartoon value nature system, where Little Rap Guy and friends and the whole species the whole cartoon value nature system is already extorted the same way modern countries are. Same history. They tell it different though. Totally fake, left out the criminally foreign influence database relationships, by the way. That's one of the things relevant to how we're and how we're American history, and where and how they had to leave a picture of Jesus Christ with the A at the beginning of the alphabet note. And he said he is the Alpha and he is the Omega. Alpha, A stands for Alpha. Alphabet. W stands for wall. The body of Christ. See, there are things we're supposed to learn from the Bible, and there are things you're supposed to learn from the nature of religions. There are things you're supposed to learn from the Quran, and you're supposed to learn from the nature of it. Tactical ulterior from how the experts on the Bible and on the Quran will allow discern. For example, with the relevance of sequence truth, and with the relevance of it to where and to how we are actually manifesting tactically, year after year, till now. Boxing is hot while cold, but in the ring by rules, species unfold, continued fall. See, this knew that criminal insidiousness natures would be countering and would increasingly be valuing this having been. The sciences having been self-valued, having been criminally foreign influenced, then they would increasingly self-value. We're how being shown simultaneously needs to hide from what nature has the ability to show us, like the breaching method itself. If you pay attention to what is true always about the parts of American history, the parts of history's grouped, the parts of history together. Yeah. Who disbelieves? They must pick one name in sequence, please. So that's what it does. It's an identity theft, fraud, slander method that knows people can't respond to things right unless they know other people's names, and or they know they'll have a flawed response where there are tricks involved, people from off the locations involved at each age, involved with the instances, things they left out. You think it's not so significant, adults of New York City? That rat trap you came to, blaming other things, others yourselves, for what our founders to communicate for us to blame on the breaching method, while with the guise of it in their name, because they're a certain type of victim. The thing is not to get anger. There is the point where emotions are about the simultaneous, and the simultaneous is not defended. Emotions are about defending the order of the finite, where the finite is not defended. This is prevented. They have been attaching everyone with all exceptions tied to them too, and exploiting that, attaching everyone to fake behavior, fake words, fake ties to others, pretending people have mental conditions when they raise their voices, and then go before. They have hospitals with a part where they send people for mental evaluation, and they stack fabricated audio and video as roles with a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime, and rolls with fentanyl, even if it was made up where they don't have the right to lie. They use the right to lie for predicate acts where they don't have the right to lie, as rolls with child abuses, elderly abuses, and intercities times uses of that for roles with all kinds of individuals with roles with more predicate acts than there are streets in our cities, associated with these hospital police, with the doctors of mental health, and with all private ties to them, all systems. Now they've been charging you for this. Fear! They've been switching names. Here! You call them on the phones. They affect people to confessions and demonstrations. Then you're going to call the school, say, for example. You know what they do? They say, hold on. They'll hide what you said. One principal child abuser proven, first he made all these confessions. And they say, hold on. Then they bring in more people's names, made a whole bunch of confessions on an answering machine too. different answer machine calls. Someone will call back and see he would say fake things into the record, make confessions more. I will call back and talk about that and still didn't get to what I caught them with. They used the news media to attach me fake words too, fake communications with themselves. Journalists who are police forums work with WFSB and Fox Connecticut News, and people with, I believe it was WTNH and other news locations. They have been fabricating a whole bunch of audio and video with little short stories to further lie progressions per people roles with predicate acts between campuses of each age and nature, and with uses of names next to it through. Since before our founders were born, these are people involved also with uses of streets, uses of corners, all investigations, investigators, and gators, and perception itself is being and having been employed by a breaching method. This is one of the things that Jim Crow laws is about. This is one of the things that slavery is about. And to discern slavery, you have to discern what it was about by discerning how it was sickly distinctly slavery of our founders, who were measured and maintained. They were trying to figure out who was behind them. What really led up to the Declaration of Independence and Marbury versus Madison getting said. Get justice to be real justice, not denying the slightest sequence shift. Not denying sequence shifts, not denying the slightest finite detail, group details, and all together. Here. So the interbranch databases are being and having been employed in our country, other countries grouped and together. And they have roles and identities of relationships together so long at all these locations, and it has been off them too. And there have been shown to them uses of that, and needs to make it appear it's only through greed, it's only through roles with insidious counters to greed, for example, or pretending to be against greed, because there's complete possession of each of these distinct identities of wealth, and to keep their mouths shut, not just legitimately about how they share it on and off campuses, relationships with themselves. They have roles with the uses of the corners of the streets with this. They have uses of calling in the police, overtly criminally, with exceptions used also to hide that, as roles with a whole bunch of other people too, even with the uses of the police forms, how they go, and the interbranch families, how they have roles with the wire companies. I don't know if it was AT&T or SNET, the one that Spotters and Chris Walters worked for, involved with the name people with the wire crimes with Wethersfield Police on off the Wethersfield Pizza. Now they're on social media pretending they have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. Also, local to 230 is involved with that, where they pretend that and differential. They have roles with predicate acts in legal cases and at children's campuses with child offenders of mixed natures, not for the legitimate reasons. So they have roles with kids with like programs to become police, I guess, not just police explorers, people with the military, things like that, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with the whole families. Families use kids' names because they think they're their friend. They're planting illusions in social community speak. All Whisper Creek. This is where and how the suburbs were designed as this theater for this, and where and how it is recorded, how they've been using relative to how they've been using the corners of buildings for federal rules of evidence as crimes and other natures of child abuses that are juxtaposed natures of them consciously exploited, even sexual and medical. And they make things up in the newspaper with this. Not just the newspaper attach me to fake conversations with themselves, fake locations with themselves, relative to themselves. fake sequence relationships to themselves and to others. They attach little kids and their families to fake words with others, fake ties to other people. They're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. It is with people that are also involved with areas overt criminal enterprises, private ones. The exception nature that work with three branches of government. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski, his roles with Times, on and off Fox Connecticut, with people on and off Fox Connecticut News, also involved with fact sheet nature oriented predicate acts with him, a Domain family, and involved with Mazzucato family, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with this the law Robert Chevrolet, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed in a 2006 district court case, non-verbally demonstrated, recorded, confirmed roles with on off Fox Connecticut News with Thaddeus Grabowski, and with people involved with further predicate acts with his co-defendants. With his clients. One of them being former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, Thaddeus Grabowski, were involved with the Mendez police brothers, also involved with people on the Child Defender Registry, and them painting fake registries because they've been furthering how they pretended to know me since I was a little kid and made fake exceptions with some of the people involved. There are no exceptions with a Joshua Julian, who also was involved with his name was repeated to me growing up by one of the names. There were people with the name Cololo and Scalora and Demora, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with judges and prosecutors, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people next to campuses that speak fake things into records and speak it right when people are walking by. So if they speak about it, then it looks like they were in locations with them other than were, things like that. They've been stacking fake allusions into database and roles with whole predicate acts methods relative to all kinds of things on off statistical campuses, on all these campuses, sickly distinctly, fire departments. Then they get then more and more at their houses. They have to self-value. Everyone speaks to everyone else. They employed that criminally foreign influence. They are incapable of defending their logic and of affording the answers of sciences that are actually discernible by and through us all, and on time. So this is also between campuses and exploiting where they are now manifest inherently, actively, progressively, intra-campuses and inter-campuses, inter-campus and intra, and then intra with our town /S. So they have placements with the campuses that had been influenced when they were growing up to be around me and not have any communications with me. Relevant. And where and has and how they have between campuses roles with predicate acts and with as recorded means to discern consciously criminally foreign influence uses of the department sickly distinctly, timed, connected, criminally foreign influence uses consciously of the identity the sciences share. As the people speaking for the law that cannot defend themselves and afford to discern the short words, let alone the protractions of identity's course, the way of things. The reason we discern value the way we do so we could also discern how we are simultaneously a semi-nature relationship to the only identity of volume that has a identity of relationship to itself, where semi-nature is good. That's also one of the ways we could discern. Every other thing is a criminal insidiousness nature of good, if it's good. If it's not, positive to those five identities of order simultaneously. Yeah. So, If you call the campuses, then they also fabricate audio and video. They have been doing this on and off the Wethersfield Police Department. Now, Fox News is in Hartford, Connecticut. There are other people. I think their name is White. There are people associated with confessions and demonstration of Spada sisters that are vertical and horizontal. Every once in a while, they make out of nowhere. She was in a class with me. Her older sister, Sandra Spada. And I just thought it was natural. We had problems. We laughed, and it was a fun class. I mean, the guy was a nice teacher. And then one teacher wanted me to stay back, who has roles with some judges and prosecutors involved with the probate courts, involved with the mental health community, also involved with elderly homes, also involved with prisons. No elderly homes, they just can't leave once you're in there. Not just and this is relative where truths are used for lies, and way worse, and to screen them. So this is where and how a breaching method employed a bunch of knaves that knew would pretend other, or that would be sensed while it was sustaining that breaching method, not just against Native Americans, but you have to understand it against Native Americans, because it employed what it caused relative to tactical degradation of their education, not just for that, to measure and maintain syntactical counters incapable of defending themselves, and simultaneously affording proper syntactical counter to what it knew nature would continue increasingly demonstrate as the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and the relativity of them that syntactically, because this is how we see itself. That's why value has a relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, just like in how identity does. Because the rest of what is everything at once is an identity that is hyper invisible, but still discernible. And wherever it is, its complete identity of relationship to itself is only increasingly volume. And where value is nature / nature has value. And this is what English and other languages were revealed to teach, valuing that and how they look different, sound different. They're being led. There are proofs that nature, dinosaurs, and all the things, we were first made like a team, and we became stronger, and we valued difference, and we were led. And the course of this was before scientists became criminally foreign influence. So they knew they were being led by what really is the significance is only increasing. The value of it is only increasing, of why and how we are individual, grouped, and species volume /s simultaneously is where relative to where and to how two identities of sequence / simultaneous nature are also only increasing value, and where value is nature / nature is value. These 5 distinct identities of sequence / simultaneous nature are that way too. 3 identity, a trinity. And this is where and how they could not be semi-nature and still be positive to themselves without being the identity that is too finite to mix with temporary space, but does anyway, but just one way. And too great, greater than all things individually grouped and together, not just as the extent we could discern where and how to other species exist simultaneously, not just identities being made through our own, not just through their identity, the other species, and between everything, even between the cells of our bodies, between the smallest finite detail. This is what nature shows. Lethal IDs is the value of its negative identity of relationship to itself that modern countries, modern fact-keeping nature, and modern identities are with and as when they value themselves to suit and ties encounters. Everyone left out the course of black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions in exception nature. Ground while skies. All rise. Betrayal tribes. So if we organize ourselves and use what is true always, not denying the slightest detail, not valuing the slightest detail denied. You guys maybe give up my programming because you keep getting sicker and sicker because no one ever came through a school that explained the predicate acts delivery system methods sustained against Native Americans and uses of the effects of it. People were forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to blame it on things like divide and conquer in their minds, as adults and as kids, sickly distinctly too, and with tactical delusions associated with this. And while a breaching method measures and maintains, individually grouped and together, the individuals of that self-valued obfuscations of their home and of our home sciences per relative to per where and how. In fact, criminal insidiousness, positive treatments, negative. Whenever there's a positive treatment or a negative treatment made, there's an identity treatment made. And wherever there's an identity treatment made, there's simultaneously a positive and negative treatment being made. But this is relative to where it counts, to the hyper invisible, but still discernible. Vaccines to teach us things, prepare your souls. Excuse me. So this is a method that has offensively guilt associated with that breaching method, known by all identities of sophistication, but not, in other words, not by white or black as A through Z, who hasn't used the short words correctly regarding it. And if they do, they're sensed at each age. And they touch you to fake words, fake motivation simultaneously. Other is communicated by what is said by those who pretend they speak for free speech and honesty. All we need is honesty to speak. It whispers creek. And everything is solved without all the, without it being too late, too. Always too late because they need that's employed outcome. Or preemptively too fast so they could keep the wrong outcomes too. Saying all the differences, the simultaneous is being exploited. So when the value of sequence true before the order of the finite is denied, is a criminal insidious nature of positive treatment. If the finite details are left out, it cannot use the nature of truth that is true always, not denying the slightest finite details. In other words, a coach to other. All readings of the statutes, precedents to themselves other. All instances treatments are being and having been employed in our face, sustained psychopathic thought. They cannot handle aggression true with care. So they attach people to fake words, fake aggressions, and fake, um, you know, interpretations of kindness or ignoring things. This is really too why everyone's so violent and nasty with each other, and why the same people pretend they're about free speech and or caring about what they feel or think. Baloney. Care about what people think about what they feel. That's about the simultaneous. And in other words, if it wasn't in other words, people are saying and acting at locations per conscious uses of it at other locations where they have time treatments, where they have things where they're making mistakes on purpose, and they're planting predicate acts and wrongdoing roles into illusions into databases. At crime scenes more and more. The only counter is collusions. All right, with their family members, with conversations, everyone locked, incapable of being also for just disgust. They bring up subjects and confessions with people all real fast at corners and things like that. Then people need to use their names and speak about, there are fact, human nature oriented predicate acts where people's using others' names. And other people are jumping in our conversations. And in other words, with the people that have been pretending fake things in databases, or you're saying those things about your friends. Not my friends. In other words, I don't want to say anything about anyone. These are the ones forging and switching names and being brought up by the police and by the courts in the background, bringing their own names up. I caught them with child abuses, and I caught them with uses of elderly home, and from off those locations with worse, and uses of the spots next to it tied too. They're not leaving it out. They're not leaving out the uses of Bay Rock Drive with that street changing the sign there, and the people on Two Route Highway. What is their thing with Two Route Highway? With people involved with identity theft, frauds, slanders, fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me, and there are and the exceptions how used, because that's relevant too. Whoa, vaccines. So I want a response for the confessions of the principal child abuser, and there's a Mike Levine. I only saw him one time real fast as one of the people involved with Rob Rodriguez, also on Route 3, involved with the intelligence community, on and off the schools involved with predicate acts and with identity thefts and frauds, and planting evidences, federal evidences, crimes in the cases, at the police stations, and at shopping centers, places with the foreign and domestic share. Rob Rodriguez has roles with. He made confessions about logistics and his roles with, I don't know him. He pretended once, two times. He screamed out a confession. I knew he was getting. Two times he screamed out. The second time he screamed out a confession. The first time I ignored him, and I ignored him the second time too. When the first time I ever saw him was one time they tried to take a picture. I had no communication with him. Besides a T-ball team, I had no communications with him either. These are people with the intelligence community that have been putting that offensively plant little illusions, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivations and narratives for it, juxtaposed even with real ones, juxtaposed with other ones though, and other names involved. I don't even know. I never saw him on campus in my life. I don't know what campuses he went to. Rob Rodriguez. I don't know him to not like him. And personally. And all I know is that he confessed, demonstrated, recorded, and then confirmed online too. roles with and he made more confessions online that brought up the school too. And a Scalora family is also involved with them with police forums with Facebook page, also with Joshua Julian, involved with state police families and people associated with whiting forensics through time, and with some of the parents of the kids. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed involved with federal crimes on my street with a Joshua Julian, and in my area with a whole bunch of names tied to that corner through time, involved with Wethersfield Police, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and military, foreign and domestic. Same thing at corners of streets. I mean, a whole bunch of medical family and the medical doctors and their families associated with mental health locations, and with probate judges, foreign and domestic, and their family members involved on off Town Line Drive in that corner there. Involved with people with UConn, people with Central Connecticut State University, have a whole bunch of interbranch predicate act rules timed on off Central Connecticut State University, on off campuses, and on off that location right there. As nature of identity theft, fraud, slanders, time too. And the response relative to the responses to things I said on Facebook. In other words, after they have dozens of falsified police reports, roles, wire crime acts and methods roles, child abuses roles, elderly abuses roles, uses of the locations next to it, before that, during it, and since too. Ugh. People on off town line, town two route highway. Please get me a response for the confessions of this club and demonstrations of him as one of the names brought up by these police forging and switching names. And please find out if it was really the officer Sullivan, if that was her name, because the Wethersfield police confirmed that one of their police was the one who called from Wethersfield town offices, and they said it was an officer Sullivan. But they have also been fabricating audio and video transcripts. They demonstrated, confessed, recorded, also through some little kids made confessions. They have roles and demonstrations at corners of buildings before, where they make it pretend they have roles with Afghanistan, people from Afghanistan too. They have roles with Korea. They have roles with Italy. They have roles with Germany. They have roles with Russians. All these people have roles with time, identity theft, fraud, slanders instances, and roles with the names involved with the falsified police reports and the narratives and the backgrounds tied to it. They put they put charges, and they put no writing, and they attach that to confessions, including how they changed the officers' names, pretending they made mistakes, switch arresting officers' names, ones that weren't even there. Rolls with all kinds of predicate acts methods in New Britain Superior Court, Hartford Court, after they were already involved with a pattern of people met with confessions, and then more from people that wouldn't help, who asked for help, because the Hartford courts had got involved in it and with New Britain courts, got involved personally, criminally with the FBI and with other police forms and families. Wethersfield Police, their extended family, a whole bunch of people on off Central Connecticut State University, on off Trinity College, involved with them years since before they moved Mazzucato Bakery to an additional or to a new location in Rocky Hill at that corner. That corner was involved with a whole bunch of names with predicate acts. Take pictures, try to pretend to know people. In other words, a whole bunch of roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, natures of people and things that they pretend is legitimate policing. Wire crime acts and methods roles. Attaching little kids and their families' fake conversations and ties to doctors and police forms and doctors with badges. They've been hiding live progressions because they've been hiding from the finite. They've been hiding from nature shows they've been involved with. Uses of immunities from prosecutions. Uses while they're pretending passions and emotions against crimes. They have whole predicate act, criminally foreign influence predicate acts methods, tactical delusions usages, right through every day, more and more, increasingly self-valuing as having been left entrenched. Prepare your souls. Make sure I get a response because I don't even have a sentence yet. And they've been, so I tried to keep it private, and they brought up the John Mayano brought and others because others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he was involved with. They were involved with that street first, Elm Street in Rocky Hill, since I was a kid. Intercampuses. These are the same ones in names, intercampuses, intercities, involved in the names with the demonstrations of their roles with them, with predicate acts involved. On and off Central Connecticut State University has a whole bunch of demonstrations, confessed, demonstrated, recorded on and off campuses, roles with names on that campus involved with the leadership before the World Trade Center attack, during the context, and since, who have roles with that, where they're pretending they're just legitimate on off campuses roles with other countries and with other campuses on and off there too. They've been using these locations to fabricate audio and video into databases, and way worse. Let's all rehearse vaccines. Quinnipiac University, please get a response. There's a Kevin Harris and others who fabricated things into databases and spread lies and rumors about me, pretending to know me. I never had a word of I never had a conversation in my life. Kevin Harris, he's one of the ones involved with some child offenders on the registry, and further with a principal child abuser, and one he had roles with the abuses of the daughters of a principal per relative, criminally foreign influence uses of the sense and sensibilities of the child offender, where forgiveness is also relevant because there are more names involved than appear to be involved. There are more interests involved, and from other locations, from off the campuses, multiple police forms and courts forms. Our names involved also with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the witness protection program, and names next to body dumping spots that are all brought up by the people who are tied to this Rob Rodriguez. In this one sentence, they won't let me get off that he confessed and then confirmed on Facebook, so they knew it was coming. They have the police forms. Well, obviously, there are other people involved with these confessions and demonstrations too. There are Weathersfield police refuse to identify themselves, forging and switching names through time, who also made confessions regarding a Scalora family is involved with predicate acts with them on off my house. One guy forced himself through my door. I had no communications with him. I swear to God, under oath on the Constitution, on the identity that is all things that have been, that is now, and to come. It's wicked good movie script stuff. You guys, you can get in my way. You guys are involved with worse than just extortion and torture. Since before the World Trade Center, these are involved. These are involvements with the World Trade Center, with drugs and medications, crimes and crime methods that are not only at those locations formal, but are more and more at other locations like parks. There were a whole bunch of people that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Mayor Gold. I don't know. I'm not saying it's true, but they said that he influenced them, and I don't know why his daughter reacted the way she did. But they said he's involved. He's one of the reasons they're involved with federal evidences crimes and with other natures of federal crimes, including ones they pretend to be against, while I have roles with it in other ways, like gun crimes, like on off the Millwoods Park. There are men and women associated with Joe Aiello who have been involved with federal crimes with little boys and girls through time, attaching them to fake locations, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. They even take fake pictures of people. Has a whole bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College involved with this. And there were a whole bunch of ways rolls along roads and routes and highways with the names there. So let's get them on paper. You know, that's mandated law. They're lying about what mandated law is about, and they're lying about their motivations because which came first? These are people before with predicate acts in their courts after the World Trade Center to hide what I caught them doing with others, that they affected the confessions of individually grouped and together they affected predicate acts methods roles. Eric 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 Burgess and his girlfriend recorded confessed demonstrated confirmed the Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts influenced them to roles with predicate acts and pretending to know me on CCSU and to hide the confessions and demonstrations of the son of a Dean Alford, who was who after was already in the process of getting the help that others asked me for, which I found out was tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, to co-defendants of his, who are recorded on a 2006 district court case before and after it and during it involved with predicate acts consciously and demonstrations of their roles with Thaddeus Grabowski shortly before that, and with these police forms involved with various natures of abuses of kids through time and uses of databases, and they're religious themed and culturally themed, and where they use in identity theft, fraud, slander, and pretending to be against that, while simultaneously pretending that the people know each other, where and how they don't, and the nature lying about the natures of how they know each other, relative also to the predicate acts methods in the databases, and then attaching everyone to fake words. It's nothing personal against the campuses. They did good job, and this is what is recorded true always. Now I want to know who denies this. Get them on paper, and we'll follow, do it fast, because they have more and more kids that are involving at different schools and their family members and their lawyers. They have been planting with civil cases, federal crimes too, because the courts had roles with it. The other, as the names that are involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, all these identities of insidiousness, A through Z, manifest that would not have been had legitimate sciences voicings been here. So get them on paper now. Get them on paper now. Get them on paper to my name and sequence too. Name switching and sequence shifting into branch so they could use time as a weapon. And they are with the crimes with the people with the prisons tied to them. Those people at the prisons have crimes with their family members, with the patients and criminals at those prisons, and with themselves before they got caught, and with their delusions, their relative, and with their sequence shifts, criminally foreign influence styles and methods of pretending other is what is recorded relevant. They did worse than torture people since before the World Trade Center attack and needed, with fact treatment nature oriented predicate acts methods. So there are campuses next to Trinity College, and there are people on off Trinity College, along with those names, involved with Cololos and people with the Scalora family, involved with all the elements that the agencies and the interbranch are involved with, good and bad, where they have been using that to keep criminally foreign influence uses of campuses databases and of all locations from being discerned. And now they're beginning away because the names we use is relative to the interbranch switching and forging names. They've been planting evidences at locations, identity thefts and frauds with investigators. A whole bunch of ones tied to like an officer Poison is also involved out of Central Connecticut State University with child offenders at other campuses too, and predicate acts on that campus. A whole bunch of people with Hartford courts recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also with the FBI and the depositions of the men and women like the Thaddeus Grabowski. There's a John LeConte and his neighbors also involved with the people involved with predicate acts, wire crimes on my street, and with the Weathersfield police still. People on off Weathersfield Pizza also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed on off Central Connecticut State University involved with predicate acts, with people on off Yukon and on off other campuses I never saw them on, and along roads and routes with people on off the state judicial branch offices. They know to an extent with the Weathersfield police involved with them with wire crime, wire crime methods, mail crimes, fake conversations with me too with that. Call it stack because they really fake they really stack fake things in databases through time. So they also affected confessions to me regarding Central Connecticut State University when I come around the corner when I was a kid. These are the people involved with the World Trade Center, uses of this between campuses. And more in Emmett, there's a guy with the name Emmett who was also brought up by the confessions. And now these are people involved with the people that answer the phones for the three branches of government and the news media, retired and standing, involved further with the as the, with the, and then tied to them with the names, further involved with the child offenders and fabricating audio and video transcripts roles with the ones with the courts doing it and having done this through time. And with children's courts, ones I didn't even go in, for the confessions recorded and demonstrated too. This is also relevant to them pretending and fake things are recorded to hide what is actually recorded, pretending they have legitimate roles and needs and uses of their consciously criminally foreign influence uses of Town Line Drive at corners of schools brought into confessions where they make exception nature to make it appear that people know each other. There are also a whole bunch of people tied to a Joshua Schumann involved with um, people from Germany and people from Italy and people involved with Mr. Abruzzi and with these O'Brien police forms families, people with Asian countries, a whole bunch of people with Taekwondo places involved with the intelligence community, criminally foreign influenced through time involved with planting evidences, identity theft, fraud, slanders. In other words, and they know my name, I don't even know their name. And these are the ones with a whole bunch of other countries, people from Italy, the medical community that are, people tied to these Demoro families that said they're involved with the Scleros. And these are the ones on off the World Trade Center. And with this Mr. Abruzzi, who was my fifth grade teacher, who was involved with people with predicate acts before that. And since I never had a conversation with my life, he made that fake exception where he asked me to do a maze of a Joe Demaro from Italy. In other words, and I was never going to go to Italy with him. He has a Heather Hansen and others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with people involved with Parks and Recs and with the Weathersfield Town offices, Weathersfield Police Department, on off their homes and corners of the street near them. People involved with the Finelli family, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Roles with federal crimes with evidences, nature of identity theft, fraud, slander, with Demoros, on off where they live now, and on off a corner, a corner of a cafeteria where they made exception pretending to know me. They also lied to his wife about me, which is probably how he got such a pretty wife. I never had a conversation with her in that life. I never had, she was in a class I was in. There were a bunch of people in that class that were involved with predicate acts that are relevant. And they hid this, which is also relevant, which is also part of where and how whole predicate acts methods are recorded. So they've been fabricating audio and video transcripts to replace what's actually recorded, fabricating emails, influencing the people to change what people say, say they didn't understand people, while they affect, and to bring up more people's names, into name switching and forging roles. There are a whole bunch of parents that were standing when I walked through a door at New Britain Superior Court who have their kids involved with themselves, with predicate acts, and with relevant delusions, and with various natures of sexual, medical, judicial, legal, and other natures of abuses of kids, uses of their own. So we need them on paper. We need them on paper with these Mendez police. Get them on paper. Get them on paper, and get a response for this from this Bob Chase, who made confessions regarding a Phil Colol he said was on the falsified police report, because they have whole falsified police report methods involved, and wire crime acts and methods with the same names involved, and drugs and medicines crimes, and sexual crimes with roles with child, even sex offenders, and with their sick natures. Pretending to, so we need to, whatever transcripts they have, let's watch, let's check, because it's all fake. Let's get watch. We can see this. Get them on paper. Get them on paper. Fox News, please respond. Please respond for the Facebook page of Fox News. I asked Judge Napoles when it was with you. Judge Napolitano, please respond. CNN, please respond. These are your sources on off CCSU. They know to an extent. They demonstrated it was conscious that some ways themselves, some ways the interbranch that forced them to be around me. So they have federal evidence as crimes. They have roles with child abuses of mixed natures, including with men and women who were abused next to that campus since they were kids. Even if, regardless, they're trying to establish undercover identities or what, like with the Gill family. They have roles with sequence shifts from before the World Trade Center, relevant names involved with predicate acts with them. And see, I didn't even know them yet. And I didn't respond when he confirmed verbally as a little kid roles with a Rick Cianfaglione, with the intelligence community, with some judges and prosecutors, with federal crimes on that side of CCSU, and with a Justice Levinskis, a whole bunch of other people on the other side of CCSU, and all along that road and route involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and uses of it intercampuses, where predicate acts where roles were and are recorded, or actually I recorded, I should say, and wrongdoing roles, and fake ties. Eric Burgess off campus confessed and demonstrated that he'd been influenced on campus by investigators and people involved with Hartford courts and the Britain Superior Court. And the military is also involved. And he didn't say it was with the military, but he also said it was with a park there in West Hartford and a school next to a fire station. And a Joe Dennis brought that up. A Joe Dennis was also involved with that location with others' names. He's one of the ones involved with the demonstrated involved with a Gold family. A whole bunch of confessions tied to mayors, demonstrations tied to mayors, involved with predicate acts, illusions in databases, people in backgrounds, and then trying to make fake exceptions, like with the news, speaking fake things in the news, attaching me to fake conversations with the news, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. And Eric Jensen and a Mike Pandolf confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed. They told lies to a Nicole Jet and her brother and their family. They influenced, roles with, with the predicate acts and the class placements, and with everyone forced to speak through others, and everyone lying, planting like it looks like it's personal between us, as the names evolve now with predicate acts in the background, with the cops switching and forging names, intercities, as the ones on off Fox CT and the spots next to it in Hartford, as the ones on off the Wethersfield Police Department, as police forms, involve a whole bunch of predicate acts, child abuses, whole bunch of predicate acts methods. You get them on paper. Get them on paper. Mike DeMay. Hey, Adam DeMay. Don't pretend you ever met me in your life. What do you look like? And we'll get this guy on paper. Get him with these Mendez brothers. What are you doing with that guy? Who's that guy who walked down the hallway at that club there, involved with these people, with the child offenders? Make sure you get them on paper, these Mendez police, with the fake police reports, switching names, with the one with this Bob Chase said that Phil Close on this police report. He didn't pretend to know me too. And those fake exceptions where you would get him on paper because he's involved too. In other words, with more, worse, recorded. It's actually recorded. You're going to see some sick people policing in schools, Wethersfield. Make sure you don't be little cowards for them. Make sure you make them speak for their aggressions and for their insidious calmness, whether preventing people a calm means to get a response. Make sure. And their uses of privacy. Of course, you guys want privacy. I want privacy too. That's why keep our names out of fake conversations with each other and with others. And see a whole bunch of fake things. People bringing fake things to the courts through time so they can stick for more fake things in the courts and more at locations. So let's go. Chop, chop. Get on paper now, fast. Don't play games. Make sure I get a response for the Wethersfield schools, plural, and with the Rocky Hill schools who have involvements with the people forging and switching names that use the name McGee, with various different police reports and their threats, where and how they confessed and demonstrated, confirmed to me and others that they switched officers' names. They have officers that switch names with falsified police reports. They only have one McGee, but they switch names with falsified police reports. They play games like that. Let's get them on paper. Let's go! Come on, hurry up. Let's play games now. Don't play games between campuses.